Marcus is a senior accountant at an insurance firm outside Columbus, Ohio. He's 67 years old. He retired last month. Every morning he sits on his back porch with a cup of coffee, looks out at the yard, and decides what he feels like doing that day. Next week, he's flying to Portugal. No agenda, no emails to check. His 401k holds $1.47 million. The house has been paid off for 2 years. He genuinely does not know what gas costs right now. And he does not need to. Dennis worked in the same industry, earned nearly the same salary for over 25 years. Also 67. Also technically retired, except he can't fully stop working. 3 mornings a week, he puts on an orange apron and runs a register at Home Depot. Not because he enjoys it, because his Social Security check doesn't cover his blood pressure medication and his electric bill at the same time. He has $195,000 left in his retirement account. If he's careful, that lasts about 10 more years. He's 67 years old. Same industry, same income, both started from nothing. The gap between them is over $1 million. That gap did not come from luck or market timing or one catastrophic mistake. It came from 1 decade, their 40s. A series of decisions that seemed perfectly reasonable at the time, on both sides, that compounded into completely different lives. If you're someone who lies awake wondering whether you're actually on track or just hoping things work out, subscribe and like this video. It will help more than you think. Most people believe their retirement problem is an information problem. If they just knew where to invest, if they could find the right financial advisor, if they could earn a little more, get a better return, catch a break. That is not the real problem. Here is what the data actually shows. According to 2025 research from Empower, the average American in their 40s has around $586,000 saved for retirement. That sounds almost acceptable, until you realize that number is pulled upward by a small group of people who saved aggressively. The median, the figure that reflects what most people actually have, sits closer to $221,000. Fidelity recommends having at least 3 times your annual salary saved by age 40. If you earn $90,000 a year, that target is $270,000. Most people are not close to it. Not because they lack access to a Roth IRA, not because they chose the wrong index fund, because they made spending decisions in their 40s that consumed the capital before it could compound. The real enemy is not a lack of information. It is a psychological force that researchers call hedonic adaptation, the brain's remarkable ability to treat every upgrade as the new normal within 18 months. The bigger house stops feeling like a luxury. It just becomes the house. The nicer car stops feeling like a reward. It just becomes the car you drive. But the payments stay exactly where they are. The financial obligation remains. The feeling of upgrade disappears, and the compounding opportunity is gone forever. Your 40s are the decade when this force operates at full strength, because it is the first time in your life you actually have the income to say yes to those upgrades. And everyone around you, your neighbors, your colleagues, the people you went to school with, they are all saying yes at the same time. The pressure is invisible, constant, and almost impossible to identify from inside it. Think of your 40s as a river with a fork. The current pulls hard toward one side. Most people don't realize there's a fork until they're already downstream. And there is no paddling back against that current. 3 financial forces converge in your 40s that never align at any other point in your life. Understanding how they interact is the key to understanding why this decade carries disproportionate weight. The first force is peak earning power. For most professionals, income reaches its absolute highest somewhere between 42 and 55. Not the fastest growth, the highest raw number. A 44-year-old earning $115,000 a year has more financial raw material available than at any previous point in their career. More dollars to work with, more potential to build. This is the engine. The second force is remaining compounding time. At 40, you have roughly 25 years until traditional retirement age. At a long-term average return of around 7.5%, a conservative figure based on historical S&P 500 performance after fees, $1 invested at 40 becomes approximately $4 by 65. That same dollar invested at 50 becomes about $2.50. At 55, it barely doubles. The multiplier drops steeply with every year that passes. Your 40s are the last decade where compounding still has room to do the heavy lifting. Miss this window, and no amount of catch-up contributions can fully close the gap. The third force is the beginning of expense stabilization. By your early 40s, the relentless upward pressure of your 30s starts to ease. Kids need less hands-on spending. The house is established. The career wardrobe is set. For the first time since your 20s, there is potential margin in your monthly cash flow. The only question that actually matters in this decade, is where that margin goes. Those three forces together create what I'd call the leverage window. You have more income than you've ever had. You have just enough time for compounding to still matter enormously. And you have margin that didn't exist 5 years ago. The person who captures that alignment builds serious wealth. The person who redirects it toward lifestyle signals away their retirement. Let me show you the numbers concretely. Someone reaches 40 with $110,000 in their 401k, earning $115,000 a year, and could realistically save 14% of their income. That's about $16,000 annually. If they actually do it, investing consistently in diversified index funds from age 40 to 65 at 7.5% average annual growth, they retire with approximately $1.28 million. Combined with Social Security, they have genuine financial freedom. They are Marcus. Now, take the same person, same starting point, same income. But instead of saving 14% through their 40s, they drop to 5%, redirecting the rest into a housing upgrade, newer cars, private school extras, and then panic at 50 and try to save 20% for the final 15 years. Their retirement total lands around $760,000. That's more than $500,000 less, not because they invested badly, but because they redirected the leverage window. And here's the number almost nobody talks about. According to Fidelity's 2025 annual estimate, a couple retiring at 65 will need approximately $330,000 set aside just for healthcare costs over the course of retirement, not including long-term care. That figure has increased by more than 30% over the past decade, and it shows no sign of slowing. If you retire with $760,000 and nearly half of it is earmarked for medical expenses, your actual discretionary retirement nest egg is far smaller than the headline number suggests. This is what happened to Kevin and Sarah. Kevin is a project manager at a construction firm outside Nashville, Tennessee. Sarah is a registered nurse at a regional hospital. At 40, their combined income was $163,000. They had $142,000 in retirement accounts and 2 kids, one in 5th grade, one in 2nd. From the outside, they were doing fine. Their neighbor moved into a new development about 8 miles away. Larger lot, 3-car garage, the kind of kitchen island you see in renovation shows. Within a year, 2 more families from their street had followed. Kevin started talking about moving. The comparable home in that development listed at $595,000. Sarah was uncertain, but eventually agreed. The new mortgage raised their monthly housing cost by $1,740. To absorb that, they dropped their 401k contributions from 12% to 4%. Temporary, they agreed, just until they found their footing. 18 months later, Kevin's car needed a new transmission. The repair estimate was $2,400. Instead, they traded it in on a 3-year-old SUV. $44,000 financed, $650 a month. Sarah upgraded the following year. Then came their son's travel baseball team. $380 a month in fees and tournament travel. Then SAT tutoring. Then college visits up and down the East Coast. When their daughter got into an out-of-state school she loved, Kevin and Sarah signed a Parent Plus loan rather than asking her to reconsider a school that offered more aid. At no point did Kevin or Sarah feel financially reckless. Every individual decision had a reasonable justification. They were providing for their family. They were living the life they had worked toward. And here's the part that makes this story genuinely difficult to dismiss as a cautionary tale about bad choices. Kevin and Sarah were not impulsive people. Kevin tracked their spending in a spreadsheet. Sarah read personal finance articles. They knew, in the abstract, that saving for retirement mattered. But knowing something in the abstract and applying it to a specific $1,740 monthly decision in your actual life are two entirely different things. The knowledge did not protect them. The social current was stronger. By 50, their retirement accounts held $258,000, only $116,000 more than they had started with, after 10 years of contributions and a bull market. They spent their entire 50s in catch-up mode, maxing contributions, cutting discretionary spending, watching every dollar. By 65, they had $718,000 saved. It sounded like a lot until they ran the actual projections. With healthcare costs, inflation, and their mortgage on a house that still carried a balance, their money would likely run out around age 81. Kevin would be working well into his 70s, not because he was unlucky, because of what happened between 40 and 50. Now let me tell you about Daniel and Rachel. Daniel manages operations for a regional retail chain in Columbus. Rachel teaches high school math. Their combined income at 40 was $151,000, about $12,000 less per year than Kevin and Sarah. They had $128,000 in retirement savings, 2 kids, similar ages, almost identical starting position. When the same conversation about upgrading their home came up, Rachel did something Kevin and Sarah never did. She sat down with a compound interest calculator and worked out what $1,600 a month, the estimated difference in housing costs, would become over 25 years if invested instead. The number she got was $1.14 million. She showed it to Daniel. "We're not deciding between houses," she said. "We're deciding whether to trade $1.1 million in retirement security for a bigger kitchen." They stayed. That $1,600 a month went directly into their retirement accounts. When Daniel's car needed replacing, they bought a certified pre-owned vehicle with 28,000 miles and a factory warranty extension. When their kids started looking at colleges, Daniel and Rachel had a direct conversation. "Here is our contribution number. Here are the schools that fit within it." Both kids found strong state universities with merit scholarships. Did Daniel and Rachel feel the pressure? Every day. Their neighbors upgraded. Their colleagues upgraded. At every neighborhood dinner party through their mid-40s, they were the couple with the older cars in a sea of new leases. Rachel told me later that the hardest part was not the money. It was the social friction of visibly choosing differently from everyone around them. There were moments when she genuinely questioned whether they were being unnecessarily austere, whether they were missing out on something real, whether their kids would resent the state school decision. None of those fears materialized. What materialized instead was $1.61 million at age 65 and the ability to say yes to anything they wanted in retirement. Not because they were lucky, but because they protected their leverage window when everyone around them was spending it. By 50, their retirement accounts held $612,000. The compounding effect of consistent high contributions through the leverage window had more than quadrupled their starting balance. By 65, Daniel and Rachel had accumulated $1.61 million. Their house was paid off. They retired fully. They had options that Kevin and Sarah did not. The income difference between these two couples over their working lives was not large. The investment strategies were essentially identical. Both used low-cost index funds inside their 401ks. The gap between $718,000 and $1.61 million, a difference of nearly $900,000, came almost entirely from what happened in one decade. Here's the part that most financial content never says directly. Kevin and Sarah did not feel like they were making a mistake. They felt like they had earned it. After 20 years of working, of being careful, of watching other people enjoy things they hadn't allowed themselves, the pull to finally live at the level of their income felt completely rational. They weren't being irresponsible. They were being human. And that is exactly the trap. The psychological research on hedonic adaptation is unambiguous. Within 18 to 24 months of a major lifestyle upgrade, subjective happiness levels return to baseline. The upgraded house becomes the normal house. The satisfaction fades. The payment stays. Studies on this have been replicated across income levels, cultures, and generations, and the conclusion is always the same. We are almost perfectly calibrated to take our current circumstances for granted and hunger for the next level. Kevin and Sarah did not enjoy their 40s more than Daniel and Rachel. They spent more. The spending produced no lasting increase in well-being, and it permanently altered the trajectory of their retirement. There's a name for the decision point Kevin crossed. Financial researchers call it the lifestyle lock-in. The moment when your fixed monthly obligations consume enough of your income that your savings rate becomes structurally impossible to raise without a major life disruption. Once you buy the $595,000 house, take on the car payments, and establish the spending pattern, you are locked. The only way out requires downsizing, selling assets, or changing your life in ways that feel punishing rather than chosen. Kevin knew by 52 that something was wrong. He ran the numbers himself. He saw the gap. But doing something about it would have meant selling the house they had only been in for 9 years, telling his kids there was no more travel baseball, and driving the kind of car that made him feel like he was going backwards. So he kept adjusting the retirement projection instead of his life. There is always one more year to catch up, until there isn't. Daniel and Rachel never locked in. They kept their fixed costs low while their income rose. Every raise, every bonus, every step up in salary went into investments before lifestyle could absorb it. They did not feel rich in their 40s, but they built the foundation for something better than feeling rich. They built permanent financial security. The discomfort of resisting lifestyle inflation lasts 10 years. The reward lasts 30. The pleasure of giving in lasts 18 months. The consequence lasts 30 years. That asymmetry is the entire argument. I want to give you something concrete wherever you are right now. The first thing, and this is the most important, is to calculate your lifestyle lock-in number before you make any major spending commitment. Before you upgrade your housing, before you take on a new car payment, open a spreadsheet and calculate what that monthly difference becomes over 20 to 25 years at a 7% annual return. Not as an abstract exercise, as the actual cost of the decision. A $1,500 monthly increase in fixed costs, invested instead over 25 years, is worth over $1 million. You are not choosing between homes or cars. You are choosing between a lifestyle signal now and $1 million in freedom later. Most people never frame it that way. The ones who do, consistently every time, are the ones who end up like Daniel and Rachel. The second thing is to treat your savings rate as a fixed expense, not a residual. Most people save what is left over after spending. The problem is that spending always expands to consume what is available. If you commit to funding retirement contributions before touching your paycheck, through automatic payroll deductions into your 401k and automated transfers into a Roth IRA, you remove the decision entirely. The money never reaches your checking account. You cannot spend what you cannot see. Daniel and Rachel automated every dollar of their contributions and never touched the setting. Kevin and Sarah treated contributions as adjustable. One-time adjustment can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars across a compounding window. The third thing is to plan for healthcare as a retirement line item, not an afterthought. Fidelity's current estimate of $330,000 in healthcare costs per retiring couple is not a worst-case scenario. It is an average. That figure has increased by more than 30% over the past decade and continues to climb faster than general inflation. If you are building a retirement projection that does not include a dedicated healthcare reserve, you are building a projection that will fail on contact with reality. The people I have watched navigate retirement most successfully treated healthcare like a second mortgage they committed to paying off before they retired. They built it into their savings target as a known number, not their spending plan as a vague contingency. If you are in your 40s right now, the question to ask is not, how much do I need to retire? The question is, how much do I need to retire and cover healthcare? And what does that number require me to save per month starting today? Run that calculation with actual numbers. Most people are surprised and then motivated when they see the gap between where they are and where that target actually sits. I've been tracking my own household finances and investment contributions for more than 15 years. The single biggest recalibration I made in my own planning was treating medical costs as a known future obligation rather than a vague risk I would sort out later. The math changes significantly when you take the uncertainty out of it. Marcus is on his porch in Columbus right now. Dennis is putting on his orange apron. Both of them lived through their 40s making decisions that felt reasonable at the time. Marcus drove a modest sedan for most of his career. He stayed in the same house for 19 years. He automated his 401k contributions at 15% when he was 38 and never moved the dial down. He was not always the person at the neighborhood dinner party with the newest car or the most impressive kitchen renovation. He was, in his own words, quiet about money in a way that other people sometimes mistook for not having any. Dennis took the upgrade at 43, then again at 45. Each time it seemed manageable. Each time, contributions adjusted down temporarily. The temporary became permanent. By 52, he knew something was wrong, but the lock-in was real. The house, the cars, the pattern. And unwinding it would have required disruptions he kept deciding were not worth it yet. There was always more time. There wasn't. Your 40s will pass, that is certain. The decade moves whether you engage with it intentionally or let it drift. The only open question is, which version of yourself is sitting somewhere at 67? The one who has options or the one who has regrets and an orange apron? You still have time to choose. If you already know which direction you're heading, that awareness alone is worth something. Drop your current savings rate percentage in the comments. Whether you're at 5% or 20%, wherever you are right now. Seeing where other people stand is a useful calibration. And if this video gave you something concrete to think about, subscribe. There is more where this came from.